Hello and welcome to another episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host Eric Smith, and this is the first show of 2015. It's a brand new year. Look at those fancy special effects. It's 2015. The holidays are over. I'm back with some more reviews. And today I've got a twofer, as the kids say. A couple of books here. Being the slacker that I am, I didn't review the first book when it came out, and I read it. And the second book just came out in December 2014. So I figured I'd review them together. So what am I talking about? Well, if you read the title of this video, you already know. But first we have Evil Never Dies. What a gruesome cover. It's by Mick Ridgewell. Excuse me. Mick Ridgewell. Sam Hain. Yes, we're back to Sam Hain Publishing because they do some good stuff. So I'm going to talk about this first book before I get to the second one, or even show you what it is. So Evil Never Dies. Wow. What we've got in this book is a reporter named Roland Milhouse who goes to the town of King's Shore to interview Patricia Owens for her 120th birthday. And he thinks it's just going to be a little fluff piece. But Patricia Owens has a story to tell about an evil that nearly eradicated King's Shores in 1912. And that's the crux of the story, is this story that Patricia Owens is telling to Roland Milhouse. And I don't want to give too much away, although I suppose I will when I get to the second book, since it's the sequel. But anyway, what I want to talk about mainly with this one is the structure that Mick Ridgewell uses, which is typically, in my experience, when you have a story like this, where one of the characters is telling a story to someone else, and that story is the bulk of what you've got. Typically, I've seen it done one of two ways. You have bookend pieces, which is the modern day, and then the bulk of the book is that story from the past that's being told. So usually I either see that or alternating chapters, where you've got present day, then the old-timey story, then present day, old-timey story. You know what I'm saying. Mick Ridgewell does something quite different. While some chapters are all present day and some chapters are all old-timey 1912 chapters, there are spots where you've got as little as a paragraph or a sentence that's part of the story that Patricia Owens is telling. So it's an interesting structure. It's very conversational. As Roland and Patricia are sitting in her living room, and she's telling the story. She's looking through her journal, or just trying to remember things, and she'll be telling a little bit of the story, and then Roland will interrupt her for some clarification. Or they'll take a short break so she can get something to drink because she's getting a little parched while she's talking. And then the story will stop and we'll get some modern day stuff. Roland goes back to his hotel and changes clothes and gets some sleep and puts his notes together. And some of the old-timey story is told that way as well, with Roland putting his notes together. We're getting a bit more of the old story, the 1912 story. So it's very, very interesting, and I actually liked it because of that conversational feel that you get in parts of it, and because it's sort of the way it's all pieced together. And Patricia's story is quite interesting. she was, I guess, 20, since she's 120 now, and 1912 at the time of this was 100 years earlier. But she tells the story of living in King's Shore in 1912 and the evil that came and nearly destroyed the town, as I said earlier. And I don't want to give too much away about what that evil is, although, well, it's going to come up. It's going to come up anyway. It's vampires. Vampires. And anyone who's seen any of my other videos knows that I'm not a huge fan of vampires. But here they are, monstrous enough that I enjoyed them. Very monstrous as they rip the town of King's Shores apart. King's Shore. So this is, you've got your modern stuff going on, and there is more to the modern stuff than just the conversation between the two, because evil never dies, so there's a touch of it in the modern day parts of the story. And then the 1912 parts have that old West horror feel to it, and lots of gruesome action and things going on. The only downside to this that I found was it doesn't have as much of the character development that I like. Again, if you've watched any of my other book reviews, I'm real big on character development. And there's a little bit here, but not a whole lot. I don't know if that's because it jumps back and forth in time, or because so many characters are just vampire fodder. So we get a little bit. Patricia and Roland, of course, most especially, are developed. And maybe one or two characters from 1912, I think, get some development. It has been a little while since I read this. But that's the only downside. It's really a fun read. Not sure fun's the right word. I guess if you're a fan of horror stories, and lots of action and blood and gore, then fun might be the right word. I enjoyed it. So that's Evil Never Dies by Mick Ridgewell. A good, fun vampire horror story that takes place in two time periods. Most of the all the vampire action takes place in 1912. Most of the character development takes place in 2012. But they're good characters, and it's a really good story. So that was that one. And then just this past December, the sequel came out, and that's Evil Unleashed. Of course, it's again by Mick Ridgewell and Sam Hain, with another really cool cover. Freaky looking dude. So that's the evil that never dies, and that's Unleashed, and that's Malachi Adams. We're introduced to him in the first book, of course. But now, this story is all modern day, more straightforward, and in this one, it's the cover says it all. Malachi Adams is unleashed on King's Shores in 2014, and he rips the town a new one. Excuse me. Yeah, so he gets out and starts building a vampire army, and needs to learn about the world in 2014 because he's been away for a while. And that's where Roland comes in. Malachi sort of captures Roland and blackmails him into helping Malachi learn about 2014 and formulate a plan for getting revenge on the people of King's Shore. Because it doesn't matter if everybody from 1912 is dead. You still want to take revenge on their descendants, I guess, when you're an evil vampire. So, this book, again, more of a straightforward structure. No flashbacks. It does fill you in a little bit if you didn't read the first book. I suggest reading both, but you don't have to. You can read this one without having read the first one. But it's all modern day, straightforward structure. Lots of crazy monster vampire mayhem. I think it does suffer from the same little problem that the first one did, which is not huge amounts of character development. Again, there is some. We already know Roland. So his character's been established. There are a few other characters that get a little development. But again, a lot of people are just fodder for the mill. So it's, again, a small complaint. It's well written. There are a few continuity errors in both books, but not enough to cause any big problems with reading and enjoying. These great covers. You see them both. Especially if you like vampires. Initially, I guess this one made me kind of think of Salem's Lot, or is it Blood Red? Looking by James A. Moore. Just that sort of, the vampire comes to town, especially a smaller town, kind of setup. But this is definitely where both of those are kind of slow burn books. This really just jumps into the violence and mayhem, which is a lot of fun. Again, there's that word for violence and mayhem, but it's fictional, so it's okay. Yeah, it does build, but where something like Salem's Lot and Blood Red, books like that, have a much start at a lower level and slowly build. This book starts at a much higher level. I mean, it starts off, boom, Malachi gets released, and he just starts tearing it up. So it starts at a higher level and kind of shoots up a little faster than those other books. I don't know if any of this is making sense. But that's how I'm going to describe it. Because I can't think of a better way. So again, both are well written. Both are very entertaining. Both are quite gruesome and gory. What they lack in lots and lots of character development, they make up for in just a lot of fun, crazy scenes, a lot of mayhem, a lot of city under siege by vampires stuff going on. I want to say there's another one on the way, but I'm not really sure. I'm looking here to see if there's any clue. Nope, that doesn't tell me anything. I feel like I've heard somewhere there's a third one. And I also want to check something here. Yes. There we go. I'm going to show off a little. I got to meet Mick. I picked this up at Horror Hound Weekend. So I did get this autographed by the author, signed, personalized. Pretty exciting. So, yeah. got to talk to him about this a little bit. So there you go. A couple of good vampire books. And again, not a big vampire fan. Well, I seem to be reviewing quite a few vampire books. That's because you got to look for the cream of the crop, which is what I do. If there's a vampire book out there that I haven't reviewed, chances are it sucks. No, just kidding. But anyway, so start off your new year right with a couple of good books from Sam Hain. Good stuff. Good covers, a little more dynamic than some of the Sam Hain covers. So I think that's it for now. I do have some other Mick Ridgewell that I have to read, but like I said, this one, the second one just came out, so I wanted to get these reviewed and get them up there, and hopefully people will pick them up for some good crazy vampire action, some old westish, some modern day, and enjoy that interesting story structure in the first book. It really is nice, that sort of conversational feel to it. So it's not just, Patricia's going to tell the story. Here's a full chapter of just her telling the story, or a whole bunch of chapters of her just telling the story. And you get a little bit of that, but there's more back and forth. She reads a little bit from the journal, and then Roland interrupts her and asks a question, so she fills him in a little bit. And then she goes back to reading from the journal, and or whatever she's using to tell the story. I really enjoyed that. It was something quite different than we normally get, or at least than I normally get. So, as always, I'll have links for these two books in the description down below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. If you feel like yelling at me for not being a big fan of vampires, but continually reviewing vampire books, you can put that in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I think that about covers it. I hope everybody has, excuse me, hope everyone had a good holiday season, and I hope everyone has a good 2015, and hopefully I will keep doing this a little more often, a little more regularly than I did in 2014, and there's already some games I want to review, and some more books. Oh, I just got some great new books that I can't wait to read and review, because I just know they're going to be good. So that's it for early January 2015 and the Low Budget Review Show. I'm Eric Smith. Until next time, read more books.